Hey Stone Nerve Clan, this is Book of Wyrms and we welcome you to the Blunt Sessions. So I think it was like 2015, me and Sarah had been jamming for a while, mostly more Americana type stuff. We did some Ween covers together, and she was in a metal band. They had written some songs, and I had helped with some of the recordings, but then the band sort of fizzled out and she was really bummed, and I was really impressed by her vocals over the heavy stuff, which foolishly I hadn't really thought about as much as, like, I was doing metal stuff and I was doing music with her, and it was like, hey, do you want to do a thing? And so then we asked our buddy Chris DeHaven that we just knew from other bands, and he said yeah, and he started jamming with us in our basement practice space, and we went through a couple of guitarists, but we were just having such an awesome time and coming up with so much music, and we eventually got Ben through Craigslist, and he brought Kyle because he thought they had good chemistry together, and we made some records that way, and then eventually Ben left because he didn't like touring life, and so yeah, that started in 2015, and here we are. So yeah, the 70s were I wasn't there or anything, but they were an awesome time for the kinds of music that I like. Black Sabbath, Bowie, my favorite Stones records all happened then. But also outside of that, there's Hawkwind, especially the Lemmy years of Hawkwind have been really big for me as a bassist, and I think us as a band, the way they combine the psychedelic with the heavy, Thin Lizzy, and then beyond all that, my favorite Miles Davis and Herbie Hancock records are from the 70s, and Funkadelic and Parliament and War. So yeah, there's just a lot of stuff from the 70s that I really like, and Sarah and I were talking, and in one of her music appreciation classes, they talked about how technology trumped songwriting in the 70s, and I think that's just such bullshit. And so does she. It was cool. People were like, oh, there's Moogs, let's try them out, and there's ARPs, let's put these weird keyboards on stuff. What can we try? So I think, I don't know, technophobia is not a good thing, but yeah, the 70s are a really interesting time. We also like stuff that's influenced by the 70s, which is weird. Soundgarden and the Melvins would be two examples of bands that, especially when we were starting out, were just super influential for us. I think, grunge, the stuff we grew up with, Soundgarden and Alice in Chains, is also an influence. And then, through me and Kyle, there's also, some 80s metal. Lately I've been on a pretty big Lizzie Borden kick, and I always liked a lot of speed metal stuff. So yeah, a lot of influences across the board. Yeah, the fact that we went down to one guitarist was a huge change for the band, and change for all of us. As a bassist, I knew I needed to fill out a bigger area of the sound, both in terms of filling in some of the sonic range, being a little more guitarish, if you will, but also being a little more strategic about what I was playing. Before I could just be kind of on the bottom and have both of them doing stuff on top. Now I really needed to handle a lot of the rhythm stuff. I ended up taking some lessons with a local bassist, Todd Harrington, and we focused a lot on 70s jazz and soul, kind of with the idea of holding down a groove while elaborating on the melody, which is something that's Geezer and Lemmy always did, and it's it's been pretty awesome for me adding that in. Sarah had to do a lot more synth work, more keyboard stuff, and it was good in a way. It made more room for everybody and let us all kind of shine. I think the real star there is Kyle. He had to, he's writing for 2 people now, so everything he did, had to be more economical. We didn't pretend we still had another guitarist and have him do it like that. It's more like a power trio with a singer/keyboardist over the top. So there's a lot of pressure on him, and he stepped up that way. He also stepped up in terms of writing. He wrote 3 things on the record. But back to the main question, the lack of dual guitars kind of, I hate to say it, but it forced us all to get better. We couldn't rely on that cheap trick, which is an awesome trick, but I was always on the old records, I was just too quick to be like, all right, I'm gonna do my bass line and you two sound like Thin Lizzy or Iron Maiden over the top and we'll be done. And that didn't cut it this time. There was no stacked guitar, so everything had to be done for a really good reason, and made it a little more rock and roll and a little less flamboyant. No, that wasn't really intentional, which is funny because we've done it on other records where we intentionally, made everything go into each other. This time, we didn't even really know what the song order was going to be until it got pretty close to mastering time, I think. No, that's not true. We figured it out in the studio, but still, no, there was no planned order. I mean, basically what we do is, we know we've got about 42 minutes on an LP, so we timed out each track that we recorded and did the math on what would fit on each side, and then from there we kind of did the flow. Okay, so for side A, let's hit them hard, and then slow it down a little bit and then come back up, and something similar for the other side. But as far as the transitions, I think we actually spent less time on that this time than on other records, so sounds like maybe it's happening on its own at this point. Yeah, so Occult New Age, and it's out on Desert Records, and the tape is out on Stoner Witch Records. The response has been incredible. I'm super grateful. You never know what's going to happen when you put a record out. Sometimes you kind of feel like you're farting into the wind and nobody cares. This time that hasn't been the case. There's been a lot of interest, a lot of people just like randomly that we don't even know reaching out, telling us they love it, and people not even talking to us about it. We just see people elsewhere enjoying it. Sales have been robust, which is awesome because everybody has it hard right now, and so for somebody to choose to spend their money on us is incredible. The pre-sale of the vinyl is going really, really well. We've paid for our portion of having to press it. Unfortunately, you've probably heard about how vinyl delays are right now, so our the pressing's been pushed back twice now, which has been a huge bummer for us, but there's nothing anybody can do. We're just really thankful to everybody. It's given us more time to sell more of them, and I guess that's a good thing. The response has been great, and we're really happy about everybody being really cool to us. Yeah, so each of the records has been pretty different thematically, I guess, just because we're in different places at different times in our lives, but there's definitely some common stuff between all of them. I actually brought some of our inspirations for you to look at. First and foremost, used fantasy books. Love them, can't get enough of them. Books about weather. We love to sing about weather. Doctor Strange, not so much the stories, but like the imagery and just the psychedelic artwork. I mean, it's incredible. I won't look in there with you, that's lame, but it's just really psychedelic and trippy stuff. Surrealism and the occult, really interesting. And then shout out to the big one, Ursula Le Guin. I'm probably not pronouncing it right because I've only ever seen her written, but the books of Earthsea, and she wrote a bunch of books for adults too. Just anything that kind of transports you to somewhere else and you know, obscures what reality is and lets you be involved with a more subjective and internal experience, I think, is what interests us. And so, you know, we've looked at it in different ways, and sometimes it's a little darker, and sometimes it's a little more colorful. But yeah, I guess just kind of psychedelia and escapism and fantasy and horror is pretty much what we're into. Yeah, so we have been really lucky to work with the same artist on everything so far, and it's Tara Lynn Phillips, Coffee Lips, and here is an original she did. This was for our demo, and so then we stuck with her, and you can see over here, this is one she did off Sci-Fi Fantasy, and obviously we're still stoked. And then I don't think we have one of Remythologizer up anywhere, but here is the art she did, the original pieces for the new one, Occult New Age. So you can see it's supposed to kind of represent the 4 members of the band, but also, you know, other things involving multiplicity. This really cool little rainbow thing, a couple of worms in the background. We love the way she captured the woods. I mean, she's from West Virginia and we're from regular Virginia, and you know, we absolutely adore the mountains, and she did such a good job. There's little details that I'm still finding, you know, these little rock outcroppings. Look at these druids going into the cave. What are they doing in the cave? And it kind of looks like the same stalactites from the other record I showed you. And this awesome jewel, is it the same jewel as that? We don't know. And so then she also made us, and I'll let it get a little fuzzy, but and it's hard to see in the light, but so it's the 4 members of the band. Again, you know, you've got this cool little prism thing going, and those are our astrological information, which ended up being kind of boring because it's 3 earth signs and 1 fire sign. I might have that backwards. No, I've got it right. Cool. So yeah, I mean, she's done an awesome job on everything. We've been really lucky to have somebody that understands our vision, and it's kind of given us something consistent. You know, I guess the closest I would come would be, you know, Roger Dean with the Yes records, where it's like a certain vibe that they all conjure, and almost like an established brand of what you're gonna experience. So yeah, that's that. We're doing these out of order, so these came after the other ones, but we just want to thank Stone Nerve one more time for having us on the Blunt Sessions. Yeah, so the pandemic sucked. We had a bunch of shows lined up that we had to cancel, and in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big a deal. You know, a lot of people got sick and lost their jobs, so us losing some gigs isn't that important. It still was really hard. You know, we miss seeing people, and it's something that we've been really dedicated to, so, you know, not getting to do it for a year and a half or 2 years, whatever, has been pretty lame. As soon as we realized that we weren't going to have any shows coming up, we stopped doing our normal live set, and you know, just really dedicated to getting the album done. And so, you know, we tried to make something productive out of a bad situation, and we did. So we were in there wearing our masks and, you know, working on one song at a time and just really hammering it out and getting ready, and, you know, committing to getting something good that we could put on a record, and we did. And, you know, it was important. It gave us something to do and look forward to, and so yeah, that's been awesome, but it's been a lame time overall. Okay, so y'all caught me at a transitional time with my gear. Now I have a Super Bassman, which is a 300-watt alt tube head, and I love it. For the record, I was still using the Bassman 500, which is a tube preamp, solid state, other thing. And it's also a cool amp, and I might end up using both, but for now I've got the big one. You can see on the record I used my Godin shifter, as at the time it was my favorite sound, but lately I've been getting really into my old Fender jazz bass again, which is, I don't know, it's fun how you always end up going in cycles, I guess. So I like it. I'm trying to fill some of that space that not having a second guitarist has afforded us. And then I can show y'all some of my pedals here. I always have my Beta Overdrive on. It's by Solid Gold Effects, and I always have my chorus on as slow as it'll go and about halfway up, and that gives it that little swirl you can hear. It's subtle, but it makes things lush. And then I just added this delay pedal, and don't really have that on the album at all. And then there's a wah pedal that I don't use very much, but I have for when I want it.
Hey, I'm going to show you my gear. So basically I have a Yamaha Mini DX, and it came with a bunch of pre-selected things, and then Jay made some custom ones for me. And I've got this awesome pitch bend, which is pretty cool. And then I've got this really cool chord K oscillator. It's another mini, and it can pretty much, you can set the key or the scale. And there's all these preset voices. So yeah, that's pretty much my stuff.
And then we're going to check out Kyle's stuff over here. This is his Reverend Flying V. He used it on the record. He loves it. These are his pedals. You can see he's got some, a wah and some kind of chorus and a delay. The good old MXR phaser pedal, my reverb pedal, and some sort of MXR distortion. And I think he also uses that EQ pedal. That's our PA and a comic book. And then here's Kyle's amps. He's got this JCM up top, but I don't think that got used on the record. This is a Plexi, and it did get used on the record. He's got, the traditional stack there. He also used a Friedman head and a matchless head in recording in the studio, which was, very nice of Absolute Future Studios to let us borrow. Here's a cool Book of Wyrms tour poster from some time ago. Yeah, so we do have plans, and it feels good. So I should preface by saying that we know, anything can get canceled at any time because of these unprecedented times we live in. But hopefully we'll have all our fall gigs. So we've got a whole lineup of weekends this fall all around the East Coast. We have something in town with our buddies in Howling Giant and Jake the Hawk, and that's going to be really awesome. And then we've got different shows and little festivals all over the place in the fall. We're going to be as safe as we can. We're working on a couple new songs, but mostly right now we're just really looking forward to a couple live gigs. Yeah, so first and foremost, we want to thank all our fans, everybody that bought the record or showed interest or talked about us to anybody. That's really awesome. I want to thank the labels, Desert Records for the CD, digital, and vinyl, and Stoner Witch, Melissa, for putting out the tape, which is super awesome. We want to thank Curtis Dewar for his awesome PR work for us, and we want to thank all the bands that play with us and people that come out and see us. Yeah. And then finally, we want to thank you guys at stonednerve for putting us on. We really appreciate it. This has been super fun, and maybe you'll have us back on again someday.